All right, we're back talking about retail. Last year, we saw a slew of big-name retailers go out of business, names like Circuit City, Linens and things. So what happens to the merchandise? That's when our next guest steps in. Jim Schaye is the CEO of Hudson Capital Partners. Jim, good to see you.
Hi, how are you?
Boy, you must have been a feast like piranhas last year with all of this inventory. But then again, I guess you have to sell it too. So if you have too much of it, that's a problem. How was it last year? How'd you weed through it?
We came out of the first of the year, or actually it started in September, where it was really Armageddon. The restructuring people were on the phone with us all the time. There was about 6 or 7 big deals that were coming down. At that time, you had Fortunoffs that filed, you had Circuit City that filed, you had Linens and Things that filed, you had Mervyn's that filed. So it was, there was a lot of activity out there.
Is there a little panic? I'm sorry, Tracy. Is there a little panic on your part about, gosh, we have too much stuff. What are we going to do with all this stuff?
You know, customers have always responded to going out of business sales. They just do. It probably hurt the regular retail environment. It did not have as much effect on us.
They get this weird look in their eye, though, at liquidation sales.
Sure do.
It's like this evil gene that comes out and just stay away because they're going through the racks. What makes this year different? There's not as much inventory. We haven't seen as many bankruptcies. It
started to get very quiet in July or June, actually, and we saw a little bit of a change. And I knew it was coming, but I didn't realize it was going to happen quite as quickly. I think that the big change was Eddie Bauer. You saw Eddie Bauer file.
Right.
We were all there as liquidators bidding on it. We actually partnered with a brand group that we were going to buy they were going to buy the brand, we were going to buy the inventory in the stores, and we were going to liquidate out the stores and the inventory. They were going to continue the brand going forward. But there was a very active bidder in there with Golden Gate Capital, and they came in and bought it. So we saw private equity starting to jump back into some of these deals. And in fact, you saw Eddie Bauer, you saw J. Jill, you saw Filene's Basement, and a number of other deals, Rich Camera, where normally if it had been the same time in September or October of last year, they would have liquidated. This year, they actually ended up going out to strategic buyers.
From a national perspective, I see Circuit City and Best Buy, and then I see a lot of local, like P.C. Richards here in New York, and then, of course, Walmart is a big player getting into it. But why would Circuit City fail? It seems to me like they and Best Buy would be two that would stand alone on a national basis and would be okay.
You know, I've been doing this for about 20 years, and I've seen, you know, it's like our business has been pretty consistent. I mean, last year, obviously, was a little unusual, and was, as I said, it was Armageddon. But, you know, it's all about execution. You know, it's just really amazing. You go into a retailer, and I've spent enough time in retailers throughout the United States that I can see very, very quickly when there's, quite frankly, an issue. And it's all about execution. It's all about, you know, are they able to operate their stores efficiently, effectively? There's some really great retailers out in this country.
So who's next to go down?
Well, you know, obviously because I'm...
Because you obviously know based on that look on your face.
Yeah. The hood and the sickle. This is it. You're going down.
It's got to be Macy's.
No, I wouldn't say they're so quick to go down. I mean, you know, first of all, does Macy's have issues? Sure, they have issues. Does the department store sector have issues? Yes, they have issues. Do they need to probably clean up some of the stores? Was the integration of Marshall Field's into Macy's perfect? No. I think if they had to do it over again, they probably would have done things a little bit differently. They'll be fine.
What about Sears?
You know, Sears and Kmart is an interesting issue. I thought that they would have more serious problems. They did. They seem to have been able to survive. I think they've monetized the brands very, very well. There's some very strong brands in there. You got Die Hard, you got Craftsman, you got Kenmore, very strong brands. Sure. And, you know, I think that if I had predicted, I would have said, yeah, gee, they were not going to make it, but they seem to be holding on to their own.
What about retail? Sears is a little bit of a retail play, but sort of switching gears a little bit.
Yeah.
Can these retailers on the real estate side, can they renegotiate their leases and their terms because we're seeing that in housing? Can it be done in strip malls as well?
Well, you know, that's an interesting point, because that's quite frankly one of the reasons why there haven't been the bankruptcy liquidations that you've seen in the fall of last year, because there has been a huge amount of renegotiation of leases. You know, for example, you take Zales, who's done a great job of going in and renegotiating leases all over the place. And they would go to a landlord and say, well, look, we have a choice. We're either going to close this space, which is sitting right in the center of a mall, or we're going to close the store. And quite frankly, they're able to make all sorts of deals. Now, what's going to happen in 2 or 3 years? That's a good question. But it's filtering down to the landlords now, because now they're taking a lot less rent in a lot of these spaces.
What do you do when you actually go in and you go to these auctions and try to get this, you know, the product that they're liquidating? How do you then offload it?
We run going out of business sales. I mean, you know, you saw it in Circuit City, where we started, you know, at a discount of 10 or 15 or 20%.
But they never, that was a weak liquidation sale on Circuit City's part, may I add. It never got below like 40, 50%. It wasn't a true blue 80% off liquidation sale. It wasn't.
It wasn't a true blue, open up the doors, just take whatever you want.
It wasn't.
Take what you want.
It wasn't. I remember we reported all over this. It was a lame liquidation sale.
Well, thank you.
Yes. Sorry. It could have been a home run.
Well, it's a man's livelihood.
No, but some of them are good. Linens and things? Now, that was a liquidation sale.
That was legendary as far as liquidation sales go.
How do you
determine how you're going to price it?
You have to realize, I mean, first of all, the customer reacted very well to 10% off and 15% off. We never discounted computers, for example, under 10%. We didn't have to. Because you have to realize it's all margin driven. You know, people understand good deals. And yes, you would say, yes, when you went into linens and things and we had to offload merchandise at 40 or 50 or 60% off, or if you went into Mervyn's, or even Fortune Offs, yes, you have to have much greater discounts. In electronics, where the margins are tighter, you don't need to give away goods like
Jim
you do.
Schaye, you got quite a job. That is cool. CEO Hudson Capital Partners, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And I didn't mean to... I was disappointed, though.
You were right about,
I'm being honest.
You were right about linens and things, though. Fist fights over pillowcases.
It was mean. You went in with blades for towels. Just for towels.
There you go.
Nothing to do with it.